Hi, welcome back. My name's Newman and I'm going to show you my orchids. Little update here so you can see them. They're just behind me right there. So stay tuned. Alright, first things first. Just going to take up the shade cloth so we can have a look. This is 70%, by the way, because most of the day they're getting sunshine and it can get pretty intense. So I learned last year that they got far too much. Plus, not only that, I've learned something about how much they can tolerate. Now, just pop this up again. I'd like to introduce you to this mini Cattleya. Now this one is super healthy. We need to take it down so we can have a proper look at it. This is one that I've been growing for the last 4 or 5 years. You can see the chopped parts there because they got a lot of rot. And I recovered the plant and it started to grow for the last 5 years. It has become this big healthy plant, and this has been out here last summer, so it survived fine. A lot of the ones, unfortunately, when I buy them, they're not too healthy. It just happens when you buy them from the store. But something special today, I'm going to show you this.
Wow!
And this one is Rincolelio Cattleya Young Min Gold. So we can see the tag right in there. Now this is a really hardy orchid, by far. I mean, when I bought this, it was just one cane. One cane that had leaves and one that was bare. So it was just two. And it was really neglected in the store. I don't know, it's probably been in there for months. And it survived with my care, even after all that abuse. So this is a very hardy orchid, unfortunately. I think I'm going to come out tonight. It might be a night fragrant orchid. I can detect a slight, very, very slight fragrance, and that's about all. So this is multi-flowering, so you can see that on one inflorescence it has 5 to 6 blooms. So imagine this when it gets bigger. Okay, next up, I made a mess of this last year, but I've recovered it, and this is a beautiful flower of Maxillaria variabilis.
Wow!
There's a beautiful yellow flower. I'm so glad it survived, because last year I didn't keep it shaded enough, and it likes to be watered often and to dry out in between waterings. So I've got it in terracotta, and I don't hesitate to water it quite often. Likes a lot of water. I know that now, but it has a fragrance. It's kind of just spicy. Okay, and next up is this Cattleya hybrid here. Name tag says Little Toshie. Little Toshie Soliel. I bought this as a nice healthy orchid, and after it flowered I decided to repot it last year just to make sure. It had a good root system. It had put out 1, 2, 3 canes. It's got another one on the way there, so I'm looking forward to it continuing to grow. And just checking a cane here. What's going on? That's fine. Yeah. I tell you what, when you mess with cattleyas, they do take a lot to recover. It can take years. It took this one here 2 years before it flowered again. Okay, up here, this is a Cattleya Lindii. Now Lindii has been doing really well for me. I'm looking forward to it flowering. I bought it with one flower on it, so I got to see what it looks like. It's growing really well. It's in sphagnum and terracotta. Next up is Dynema or Dynema polybulbon. It's got a very wide distribution from southern Mexico into Honduras and Panama, and even reaches out into the Caribbean. Easy going orchid. I did notice that the leaves are starting to go a little black, and leaves are falling off when it had poor aeration. So if you are growing this indoors, make sure you get a lot of fresh air blowing around it with a fan, otherwise it'll suffer. And once again, this is in sphagnum moss and terracotta. No flowers yet, but I will update you when it does. Here's a Dendrobium sweet candy. It had beautiful flowers on it. It has a nice new cane coming up there. It's growing in the shadier part of my greenhouse. Once again, the Dendrobium Saohimat, which is a hybrid done in Japan, because they love nobiles, and that one's very fragrant. It's really nice. It's a miniature. Right next to that is my Miltonia Gudule golden something, and in the corner there is baby green eye, which is a hybrid done in Japan. It's very miniature. Just going to put my finger here, you can see how small it is. This is a Dendrobium Kingianum Nero. They had the typical looking Kingianum flowers, except they were quite speckled, so I thought that was pretty neat. At the back there you can see one of my mounted Vanda falcatas from whatever was left over of a plant that I bought, and another one right there. And what happened was the plant was taken off a tree, and see, it didn't like that one little bit, and it went downhill fast. So if you do buy something that's detached from a tree, and this wasn't poached, it was from somebody's property. They grow a lot of them, and Once they are detached, they throw a hissy fit. Okay, they can drop all their leaves and start dying back. So it can be pretty chaotic. I love this plant. Leptotes bicolor. Look at those flowers. They are supposed to be fragrant like vanilla. But you know what? It might be night fragrant. Might be attracting moths. The leaves got a little shriveled here and there, but I think that's because the seller had divided up a big plant, and it has a root system on it, and they divided it and cut it up to sell it. So it's trying to establish its roots again. But it's a beautiful sprawling native of southern Brazil, and if you want something that has a beautiful fragrance of vanilla, and even it's been used to make vanilla essence, the people in Brazil have used it. It's very, I would say, a very widespread and prolific orchid, so it's quite hardy. This one I just purchased, Himeji. Himeji is a Dendrobium nobile hybrid made in Japan, and it has a beautiful sweet fragrance. It's very abundant flowering. I would say that this is a very hardy orchid, because if you see anything that's so available like this thing, then you know it's hardy, because it's growing in everybody's trees and it's multiplying so much that you see a lot of this available, which means that it's hardy. The yellow flowering varieties you don't see so much, and I think that they're a little bit more detrimental, but definitely this one is a hardy one. It came bare rooted, and I've potted it up in sphagnum moss, and I did the typical bowl, so I spread the roots out like a palm of my hand, and I put a very, not compact but loosely tied ball of moss inside it, so it sprawled out the roots like my hand, this way, and then around that I went around and round with moss and made a moss ball. So it's got a nice well in here, so when it waters it, you know, it's got some actual space here for it when it starts to expand its roots. But it should be happy. This is a Maxolaria tenuifolia. So this is the bigger growing one, bigger than Variabilis. Everybody knows this one. If you live in Florida, you have them everywhere. One of my favorites because I love the smell, and it's nicknamed the orchid, the coconut orchid. So this thing was quite wrinkly in the summer. There are temperatures of 35, 37 degrees daily. During the winter time, it put on a lot of good new growth starting. Sorry, not made any, but it's just starting to make some, and it plumped up its bulbs, so it's much healthier. I repotted it into sphagnum so that it can retain some moisture. Next here, this is just a couple more keikis from this Himeji from the buyer. Legicii. This is what's left of my plant. I'm still learning how to grow it. I've got to keep it cooler in the summer. So I bought another one because I love Legicii. This one's got lots of keikis. What I did with the keikis is I tried to layer it. So I tried to get another pot and pin this down into the pot. And what happened? Nothing. Roots just died away. And then the keiki died too, so it just doesn't like it. It likes to sit out and airy like that, so I for some reason have trouble growing keikis unless they are quite big. If they're really big pieces with a lot of roots on them, they have a better chance to grow, but if they're smaller, they have no luck at all. Well, this is a nice full plant with plenty of keikis growing on it. You leave all the keikis on it because it grows naturally, and it even came with buds, so I'm looking forward to them opening. So we have a bud there. I don't want to focus. Maybe if I put my hand there. Yeah. And then we have another bud there. A few more buds on that one. So I can't give myself credit for growing it. I do know it was growing very cool because it's got the red moss growing on there. Next, Epicatlia Kyoguchi Happyfield. This is another hardy growing one. It already flowered. It had flowers in the flowers came in 5 to 6 in a bunch on one inflorescence. Quite small, and they had a lovely fragrance too. It's got lovely little short bulbs. So this is a pretty squat growing Cattleya hybrid. Make a nice clump in the future with plenty of flowers. Next up is my one and only Biffineria. Let me grab it off here. Biffineria starts with T, the last name. It's not Harrisonii, it's the other one, but Harrisonii and this one that starts with a T. I can't remember, it won't come to me. But they're very similar in growth and habitat. I think this one gets slightly bigger than Harrisonii, and the flowers are just a little bit of a different color. But it's comes from Brazil. Grows where Cattleyas grow, so it grows on bare rock and sometimes on trees. It has a distinct dry out and wet process, so it'll get very wet and then it'll dry right out before it gets more water, because it's growing on rocks and it's pretty open and to the elements. So I got it in this more sunnier position, looking forward to its flowers. They grow on a short inflorescence and they should be quite fragrant. And this plant is still quite small. You can get quite large, and it has these, I think cordate is the word for it. I could be wrong, but kind of corrugated leaves. Very stiff, not too thick, surprisingly. They must be very hardy leaves though, but they're not very juicy. Okay, next up is just another Cattleya hybrid there, and it has a new growth coming away here. I'm looking forward to it getting healthier. It's called Love Castle Happiness. Next, I'm going to get this tag and turn it around so we can see it. Sweet Story. Wonderful romance sweet story. That'll be a hybrid done in Japan, with no doubt. Put its tag back in there. It has 2 new growths coming away there. 1, 2. Had lovely flowers. It's got nice big juicy canes too. Very healthy canes. let's hope that this summer they don't shrivel away and then the whole plant goes downhill like my other ones did. And down here we have an Oncidium relative. It has a mega long name that I hate to pronounce because it's hard to pronounce the name of this plant, but it's got little tiny bulbs, there's little inflorescences and sprays. I call them sprays because the inflorescence kind of comes out all in different directions, very thin, with little tiny Oncidium like flowers that come off it. This one is another Cattleya hybrid that had no name with it, but it's offsetting, and I would presume it's pretty tough, pretty hardy kind of one. It is growing some nice new canes. That's good, and it'll flower again, I would think, because it's nice and healthy. This one's not doing too well. Got a bit beaten up during the summer last year. Dendrobium. Can't remember its name. Sorry. This one doesn't have a. This one has a name tag. It's one of those dendrobiums that like to grow down. Dendrobium Parardii pink ducks. So it has a flower that looked like a bunch of pink ducks, does it? It's got a nice healthy cane here. Surprisingly, it's the keiki that's healthy. Had a little bit of stress from the summer, but I did keep it alive. It's just a matter of it getting stronger and healthier. And it might flower, you never know, because it's got a nice healthy stem here, so it could flower yet. Down here is what's left of a beautiful China Dream Crystal. This one got a hard time from summer. Look at the flowers on that. I loved it, and now I'm heartbroken looking at this thing. It's actually a little bit too moist. I shouldn't do that. I should keep it on the dry side until it tries to whack up some canes, because it could rot. Well, this stem needs to be cut off. And this one's still fine. Over this side we have a growth coming away. So there's some hope, but it'll take years for it to, it could take it a couple of years for it to recover. And if it doesn't, I'll buy another one, but I won't make the same mistake. This one's been struggling along. It wasn't my fault. I bought it with a beautiful flower, and it had a very poor root system, but I didn't know it at the time until I unpotted it. Cattleya Atsuhime. It's this is one of my struggling plants. We produced a new growth here that is trying to put roots in. This one's trying to put roots in too. You can see the roots. The canes are small, and it's got a long way to go before it becomes anything again. If it does, it'll be just one that you just let it get by and then give it a little bit of help. Give it some water and just be patient. Same with this one. This is a, what do you call them again? Araudia? Arundia? You could mistake it for corn. This is pretty tough. I mean, I had this out on this balcony with that heat last summer. 35 to 37 degrees. And it survived. Didn't grow though. It was just this one stem that was kind of snapped off and handed over to me. But this year I notice I have a new growth here and here. So it's starting to grow. Yeah. So it's very tough, very hardy. Okay, if you want something that's easy to grow, then how about a Cattleya beringiana? Check that out for a root system. And this is what it was growing over the winter. It's just got a root system is amazing on this thing. This thing must be so tough and so hardy in nature. This is a gift and from a friend that grows all of her Cattleyas outside, so they get everything out there. They get all the weather. And it must be strong to be able to put up with that. This is one I'm looking forward to flowering, and it might start producing buds soon. Dendrobium speciosum gracilicol. I've already introduced this before, but I like anything that's along the lines of a Kingianum or the Australian Dendrobiums, because they survive. They're very tough, aren't they? It's got a nice root system growing there too. This has a beautiful spray of yellow flowers. Hopefully that they're really fragrant too. Typical of a Dendrobium speciosum. It has the white flowers. I used to have one of those years ago too. It had monster canes on it. So this one's got pretty decent big canes. Hopefully it doesn't get too big, because it'll get out of hand for me. Okay, this is my biggest. Put my hand around there. So they're pretty big canes. It's in a plastic pot, but never mind that it will die. You shouldn't worry that it will die or anything. This pot actually has a big the center of the inside of the pot is stepped up really high, and the circumference of it is lower, so that the plant is sitting up higher from below, so all the water will drain away into the bottom and then out the holes, whereas the other part of the pot, it's up higher, will help with aeration. So the design is fine. If I lift this up, I might have to have a look underneath so you can see what I mean. So that one with all the holes, that's actually up higher, and then you can see the rim going around, that's the raised up area. You can see that I used my soldering iron. I made a hole here and a hole there in the pot, and then I put a rod. This is an orchid steel rod that you use for holding up flowers, and that is put under pressure through this hole and then bent over the plant going through that hole, and that holds the plant stable so it doesn't wobble around. After repotting, does the job perfect. What does this plant have for us? It's got a new growth right there, one there, one on this side, so it's a nice healthy plant. Something going on here, maybe another growth. Yeah, it's going to be nice once it gets growing. This one's had a lot of the sheath taken off it, and I think it got treated for scale, because when I got it I saw the remnants of scale. So in Japan, everyone just looks after their plants so well. If you buy anything, even if it's cheap, they look after them so well, it's amazing. They'll never give you anything that's got bugs or mealybugs or aphid or anything. Never. I've never had anything like that. They clean up their plants so well, so they're pretty generous in that respect. Oh, look at that. Lovely new growth coming there. That's a surprise. Great. So this one's kind of a little bit more in the open where you can get some rainwater. It's got this new growth here that's been growing away. This is the one from last year, these two. They're nice and fat and healthy. This is a classic Cattleya. Cattleya Blue Heaven. So it's got the Laelia in its ancestry, and that's why it's so tough and can put up with some cold too. You can let it go down to 5 degrees, no problem. I think anything under that, you're going to 0 or something, you better bring it indoors. But I'm looking forward to it flowering. It hasn't flowered for me yet, because I repotted it last year and it's just been putting out a lot of new growth. But it will this time around. The person who gifted it to me said it's a pain in the butt because it grows so fast and it's so prolific. Well, that's good for me. That means I won't fail. I mean, if I fail with that, that means I got no green thumb whatsoever. Okay. So I enjoy growing the common plants. I don't mind them one bit. Me having my limited space, I got to move things around so that they fit in. It's like being a mover, somebody that has a moving company and you're trying to put everything into the back of the van or the truck. I feel like that all the time when I'm moving my plants. Yes, so this is an update on my orchids, and you got to see some flowers, only some, but it's getting there. Yep. Let me move back a bit there so you can see this growth space. It's so small, and here's all these orchids that fit into it. The next episode will be about all these orchids in this area, so stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.